Hey, Scholar, whose book are you reading now?
I'm enjoying a great reading by Stephannie Solomon. Her conversational writing style, disciple-centric themes, and liberal approach to topics is such a blessing to me. She's so on point.
Wow, she sounds like someone I want to hear, and her book's like something I need to share with my book club.
You know her books are accessible through all electronic mediums and at the brick-and-mortar booksellers, and you can hear her on her weekly blog talk radio show.
I take it she's on Twitter and other social networks?
Yes, and she's funny, too.
Sounds like the author and her books have great personality. I'll be getting my copies today.
Well, hello there, everybody. Happy Monday to you. Well, in my neck of the woods, it's a really chilly day. And you know, we're supposed to be having spring next week, but anything is likely in March, right? I hope that you're having a wonderful day, wherever you are. I just hope it's a wonderful day for you. I started saying your neck of the woods, but you may not be in the woods. All right. Well, happy Monday to you, and welcome to Winning Ways. I'm your host, Stephannie Solomon. And if you're new dropping by here, I'm an author, a life coach, and of course, a podcast host. And I've been podcasting since 2010, and I'm new to the YouTube community. And I would just love it if you would help me to grow here by clicking subscribe. Yes. Clicking subscribe, like, and letting me know what's how you feel about the topics that I do discuss. And the topics basically come from my writings and my experiences coaching individuals in two predominantly areas. And those areas are, and I want to rephrase that. I'm going to say dominant areas. And those dominant areas for me are my niches, and that's forgiveness as well as family dynamics. I do coach on some other topics that people sometimes will call and ask, could you talk to us about this, that, and the other? And I will, but these are my niches. These are my go-tos with the areas in which a lot of there's a great need. There's a great need. Okay, so I'm not going to hold you long. Since one of my niches is forgiveness, I'm going to delve into that a little more again tonight. And I know some of you, especially those who've purchased my books, and especially the first book, because that's where I'm coming from tonight, Conversations with the King, and the chapter is Forgiveness is Not an Option. As I've said in the past, someone asked me, well, how much can you say on a topic? As you've been listening, you hopefully have seen how I've evolved, how the podcast has evolved. There's always something, there's an addendum to every topic I've talked about. When I wrote about forgiveness in 1997, that was when the first book was published. What I wrote about forgiveness is true. It definitely is true in the book. But let me tell you, life is a way of teaching. And what it is than what back in 1997. All right, so guys, bear with me. In the last 3 weeks, I've been getting this freezing issue. I have done, I know someone's going to do this and do that. I have gone through this, that, and the other with internet, the Wi-Fi, individuals. I've upped the ante. I've made sure I have the Ethernet in here, all kind of things. It's just these last 3 weeks or so, I haven't had this problem, as some of you will notice, prior to the last 3 weeks. So I don't know if it's something in my region or whatever, but I do apologize for any freezing that's going on, because some of it, like I just saw something a few seconds ago, but mostly I don't realize what's happening until the show is over. But I really apologize for that. I am not a perfectionist, but I do believe in excellence. And that freezing, I know, can be annoying. So I really do apologize for it. And I'm just praying that it'll work itself out, because I've done all the techie stuff on this end to enhance speed and all of those things. All right. So let's get right to forgiveness. It is an area that's very difficult for many people to do, including yours truly, been there, done that. But because I want to be better and not bitter, I make the choice to journey through forgiveness. Yes, it's a journey because depending on the layers to offenses and events and all of those things, we have to work through them. Now, typically, when we talk about forgiveness or hear about forgiveness, we're thinking about what someone has done to us. Tonight, I want to focus on us, not so much what we've done to others, because none of us are perfect and we're not guilt free, for things that we've done, offenses we've um, placed upon others. But I want to talk about what we've done to ourselves. I want to talk about forgiving us tonight. And I'm hoping that I can say something that will really, really help heal someone. Because when we hear forgiveness, first of all, I do talk about what it's not often. We have a warped sense of what it is. And then people tend to justify, we do, why we ought not to forgive because how harsh and all of the components of the offense and event. But I want to talk about forgiving us tonight because I've learned that forgiving self sometimes is more difficult than forgiving others. I do come from a biblical base here. So as Christians, we're told to forgive. And again, oftentimes, especially when I am having conversations with my clients or non-clients about forgiveness, talking about others and talking about what forgiveness seems to them and as opposed to what it really is, has to be vanquished. I have to put out the falsities so that we can get to truths. All right. And you can go back and listen to previous videos. I don't want to reiterate too much tonight, but forgiveness is not trust, and forgiveness is not re-entry or access again. Those things can come after forgiveness. You notice I said can, but it doesn't mean that it has to. And they are not synonymous. Okay. Forgiveness does not mean restoration. It can, restoration can happen when two individuals or more value and work at wanting to be, really just good to each other, and be in a healthy place with each other and themselves. Those things can happen. Forgiveness is not amnesia. So when people say, oh, I can't do the forgetting part, I get it. It's not amnesia. The forgetting that sometimes that word is the context of it is not using what we know to batter someone and to continue to beat them down, but instead to pardon them. It is giving another chance because that is who we are as Christians. We're people who've been given another chance. With that chance, we do practice wisdom. With wisdom, we set up boundaries, we create limitations. The Bible says to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. So it doesn't mean that a person is, not excused from what he or she has done. And it certainly doesn't mean that we badger and punish them forever either. It's not our place to punish. But we want to practice wisdom. Forgiveness is for us. Let's be real clear. When let me just deal with it. When we are forgiving someone, it's for us. It's not for them. They will see that we have forgiven them by the way we move, the way we continue to move, the way we choose to move. It may include them, it may not. They may have access, they may not. They may have limited access. They may have supervised access. However we choose to do it, use wisdom. But basically, forgiveness is for us so that we become better and not bitter. That even though we have a right to be angry about something, we don't take it to a whole another level of becoming vengeful and resentful. Okay, even the Bible says, be angry, but sin not. So, with forgiveness, we want to make sure that it is for us. That's the first thing. And I know it's difficult when you're looking at other people, but you need to look at yourself first. I need to do this. I need to get past this, do the work to get past this so that I am better. Now, let's talk about when we do things that are not good for us, when we don't care for ourselves, when we don't, when we're not gentle with us, when we're harsh with ourselves, when we batter ourselves, when we abuse our own self, when we think lowly of ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves. Now, this is where we find it very difficult because we're so used to looking outward at some person other than us. But let's focus on us tonight. To move on and to become that better version of us, which is so much of what I hear when people book a session with me. I want to be better. What does that mean? Better at making good decisions. You want to be better at eating habits, exercising, building healthy relationships with people, including your family, your children. What are we talking about here? So when we talk about being better, we want to be very clear in what area. Tonight, again, I want to reiterate looking at us in the areas we want to be better. Oftentimes, when we pinpoint and get really serious and specific about the area that we want to get better, we'll find that we're saying this because we have either done something to harm our progress, or maybe we didn't do what we should have done. Maybe we were laxed, maybe we procrastinated, maybe we didn't use the resources that we had properly, whatever. And we really, really, really get really down on us. And that creates a hindrance of moving forward for us and clearing the way to explore and discover aspects of us and life that really bring us peace and happiness and much joy. So one of the things I want to touch on today is be compassionate. Learn to, as we are being told to be compassionate with others and to be kind and gentle with others, learn to be that for self. That I find is not taught much. We're in an era now where we're hearing a lot about self-care, soul care, and things like that. And many of those things that I notice I'm hearing is about doing outer exterior things, take yourself to the movies, a dinner. Those things are nice, be health conscious, be really into your total health and wellness. All of that's great. But forgiving ourselves, I have learned, is one of the best things to do for us. The best is to get saved, okay? But to forgive us is really high up on the list. Forgive ourselves. We missed the mark. We are not perfect. We need to learn how to lay aside weights. We're told in Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1 to lay aside weights and sins that torment us. I like how one version says that harasses us. Another one says that we get entangled in. Not forgiving is a sin because we're told to forgive. You know, I want you to, people probably don't use concordances as much as we used 2 years ago or Google, but look at all the scriptures that talk about forgiveness. There are times when it's real clear we're forgiving others. How many times should I forgive my brother? Well, then there are just times where Jesus just says, and forgive. Just forgive. Can we just say, insert us, forgive myself? Because I'm really knocking me. I can't move forward with this thing that I've done, this thing I've said. I didn't do it to anybody. I did it to me. And there's just lists that go on and on what those things could be. But we're not taught too much how to take care of that part of our soul, our soul. Forgive ourselves. Forgiving ourselves is ultimate soul care. It really is, because it creates clarity for creativity, for prosperity and our spirit. I mean, there's vision. We get ideas that help us to move forward and make life better for others around us. So, forgiving ourselves is optimum. And to learn to do that has to be intentionality. I'm sorry. And the intentionality is to learn what it means to be forgiving about me. Because we don't, and I've talked about this before, and we say, oh, let it go. Sometimes that sounds so flippant, how do I do that? I don't just think about it anymore. What do I do when the thoughts just come into my head? And I'll be glad to work through strategies and techniques for you individually when you book a session with me. And of course, that's available at www.stephaniebooks.com. And because sometimes someone else needs. But I will say this, we all need to be compassionate. We all need to be compassionate with us and gentle with us, not so harsh. And I don't care what someone said when we were growing up. We have to work through that too. But we have to believe that there is good in us, and believe that we are able and capable of being good people. So first, learn to be compassionate. One, I want the truth is we have to care. Right. When we talk negatively about our hopes, our dreams, and things of that sort, we need to be careful what we say out of this mouth. Life and death comes from what we say. All right. We talk about the heart having issues, but the mouth will speak what's going on in the heart. When we talk negatively about ourselves, think negatively about ourselves, and even what we watch and what we entertain in conversations, we need to be careful, because we're summoning things that work against how we ought to think about ourselves. So just like we ought to be gentle and compassionate, we need to be alert to, and really be vigilant about it. Be alert with what we summon in our space. All right. Just understand that this is all about self-adjustment. Yes, it's self-discovery, self-exploration, but it's self-adjustment too. We want to we are learning to realign ourselves. We've been used to, and we're not too old to change and realign and readjust, but we are used to thinking a certain way and getting crazy outcomes. But we have to be no longer be stubborn and resistant to optimum change that will make us better. So it's a self-adjusting. Forgiveness is really about a choice, and it's a choice to really live. I mean, really live. Christ said that he came that we would have life and have it in abundance. It's the thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That is not life. That's not living. And I don't know about you, but I choose to live. And as hard and as difficult as forgiving, whether it's others or myself is, but tonight we're focusing on us, is I choose to learn how to do it, get it done, and work through it so that I can, as long as I'm on this earth, I want to experience what abundant life is. I have come to understand that forgiving, period, exemplifies abundant life. Again, vision is clear, joy is not hindered. There aren't these roadblocks that are set up within me to enjoy, to be fulfilled in life because of unforgiveness. So I have found that when I forgive, I experience abundant living. All right. So forgiveness is a choice, excuse me, to live free from the weights that so easily beset us. And as I said, some versions say harass and torment. This journey encompasses struggles, small and large victories. And I don't know how long your journey will be. And a lot of it depends on the layers that we have to work through. But victories are assured nonetheless. All right. So we want to have that life in abundance, because I've learned that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but the thief has other little tactics and goals too, especially with those of us who consider ourselves co-laborers with Christ. The enemies of God are always working to pervert whatever God ordains. And when God tells us to do something, and I've talked about this before, what he ordains family, marriage, community, sex, the church. These are things he ordains. And there are other things he ordains. His seal is on forgiving. He forgave us. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. He came to forgive us all of our sins, and he wants us to be more Christ-like. And so therefore we have to forgive others as well as ourselves. But I have found everything that the Lord ordains, the enemy comes to pervert. Now, and that's why there are so many misconceptions about what forgiveness is and what it's not. And that's why so many people don't want to do it, because they feel like they're letting someone off the hook. They have to let a perverted person into their space, a person who is not changed, a manipulative person, a liar or a thief or whatever. And this person has to be around them, their children, and, create just messiness in their world. That is not so. That is not so. It is the hope that reconciliation will come about. I am a believer in reconciliation. However, I also understand it takes more than one person. Relationships are built on people who want to relate. And if a person doesn't want to relate, we have to take out peace. And I talked about that in another episode. But enemies of God are always working to discredit us. So we have to be careful when we say that we've forgiven, whether we've forgiven others or ourselves. So, a thought can come in our head. I really didn't forgive myself because I'm now doing this or I'm not doing that. Be careful that you compare yourself to others and you're measuring yourself according to standards that are just not workable for you. Okay. I hope that when you're forgiving yourself, however, that you're not dishonoring the power of forgiveness by saying, one, you can't do it. You can. You can do all things through Christ that strengthens you, and it strengthens you and it strengthens me to be forgiving people of others and of ourselves. All right. So we need to understand that there's going to be some kind of discreditation out there, and it will come to us. Look, you didn't forgive yourself. Look at what you're doing. Look at what you said. Look at what you're thinking. It's okay to start again. Pick up and start again. All right. All right. So forgiveness also, and I'm going to end on this, is a weapon of our warfare. Remember what I talked about earlier about having abundant life? We have that abundant life when we forgive. And oftentimes we're wondering why some things are going awry. Ask yourself, is there an area of my life where I have not forgiven? Please don't go to people and look for their definition of it. Ask the one who knows you and I better than anyone. All right. Ask the Holy Spirit, where have I fallen short of not forgiving myself? And I'm a witness because the Lord wants us to grow. He wants us to prosper. He will reveal that to you. He will forgive. He will reveal it to you and I. Forgiveness is a weapon that we can, just like joy and peace and praise and worship and devotions, and all those are weapons of our warfare because we have a lot of them and they're not carnal. We don't fight fire with fire. It's hard to, but we don't. Forgiveness is one of those weapons. It just takes it just takes the oomph out of an argument, even with ourselves. Okay. So forgiving ourselves and others will also enhance our witness. I've learned that as long as I walk around thinking I'm not all that because of something I've done, it doesn't matter who knows it or not. I know it. And I don't get past that. I don't perform well. I may have this person or people fooled, but I know I'm not at my best. I know what I have, because one thing about being a child of God, we get convicted. And so that conviction will work on us, of areas that we need to address. And I do know that we need to address forgiveness, forgiving ourselves. And with that, when we forgive ourselves, we recreate our world. Oftentimes I hear individuals say, I just want my world to be better. We can take a part of that. We can take part in that. I mean, to say, yes, we trust God and we want God to guide and lead us. But oftentimes the Lord will teach as we go. I like that someone said, build it as we go. He doesn't give a blueprint for everything. And as we go, the Lord is showing us how to do this, that, and the other, which is recreating our world. And as we recreate our world, we are forgiving, excuse me, ourselves as well as others. Opens up a whole new perspective and a fresh perspective, a clear perspective of what life ought to look like and ought to be for us. So we recreate our world for the better when we forgive. Now, if you need support with this, I am here to help you, to help you become a forgiving person. Excuse me. I am not perfect. I'm no expert, but I do have a testimony or two or three or more of what happened to me when I became forgiving. And excuse me, I will work with you step by step, stage by stage until you're comfortable. And I do understand that different aspects of life, sometimes, and where we are in our growth has a lot to do with the weightiness of not forgiving. But I'm a witness. There's nothing too hard for God. All right. And I am here to help you win and share in your victory of becoming a forgiving person, particularly forgiving yourself. All right. Okay. Well, this has been quick and it has been good. And I hope it didn't freeze too much tonight. Again, I think it's something going on in this area, because this was not happening the beginning of the year. It wasn't happening definitely last year. So something's going on. And I'm just hoping that it'll work itself out real soon. Meanwhile, though, become a forgiver if you're not. It's not worth holding on to baggage. It's not worth it. It really isn't. It affects your complexion, your health, you know. It's not worth it. Forgive folks. All right. All right. Until the next time. See you on another Monday. Take care, everybody, and have a great